boy, this chapter was something else, I'll tell you that much. There appears to be some homies in that cover page with Frankie, if you notice. And overall, I thought obviously the intention of this chapter was to be very emotional, but to me it was more mysterious than anything else. We start off with, the guys at the Mirror World, and Nami obviously knows where to go next. It's obvious that they're going to try and look for them in the place where Sanji and Luffy fought. And then Jinbei says something very interesting. He says Peckham's is well, we knew that Peckham's was okay. I mean, did you honestly think he was dead after Capone shot him and he fell into this what is it, like a lake filled with shark fish or these sharks? No, I mean that was obvious. So I'm pretty sure that the fishermen pirates intercepted Peckham's. That's how they know that he's okay. And so what's really surprising about that scene though is that immediately after Jinbei says, Peckham's got messed up because he caught up in this conspiracy and this plot or whatever. We cut to Pedro, and Pedro has the ellipses, like those little dots, like he's thinking something to himself. So was Pedro part of this plan? Was Pedro somewhere? I still think there's something big about Pedro that we don't know yet. We'll find out what that is in due time, and I'm thinking that's going to be brought up when we see Peckham's again. Now, to me, the most important scene of this entire chapter, in addition to the ending, is honestly that Bobbin scene where we see him get shot. We hear him get shot. He's bleeding. He says, "Those damn bastards," and then he falls on the floor. And not only that, but we see three silhouettes in the rain, right? And I guess the normal assumption here is that it was Capone who shot him, because I guess Capone has this tendency of shooting people like Peckham's. But if you look at the rain, there's three silhouettes, and if my assumption is correct that there is a plot here, there's some type of conspiracy to overthrow Big Mom, which is what Capone wants to do. Capone can't do that by himself, all right? I think that's pretty much a given. If he could do it by himself, there would be no point in pretending to work under Big Mom. And remember how Law said in Punk Hazard, the way that you get around the New World, you got two options, baby. You either work for a Yonko or you try and take them down. And it seems like Capone's thought process was like, let's try and do both. Let's pretend to work under them, infiltrate their territory, gather information, and then when the time is right, try and take them down when they're weak, or at least when they're not prepared. Now, again, they cannot do this. I don't think Capone can do this by himself, so the alliance that he has with Pudding, or at least the supposed alliance that he has with Pudding, becomes much more feasible now, and there has to be somebody else. There has to be somebody that's also kind of in cahoots with him. It has to be somebody pretty strong too. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure Capone wouldn't risk it. All right, so I can't wait to see who the backbone to this operation to overthrow Big Mom really is. I can't wait to see it. And so with that in mind, we also have to take into consideration Pudding's role in this. Because if you remember, she's a member or not, she was a mixed descendant of the Three-Eyed Tribe, and she will eventually gain the ability to decipher the Poneglyphs. And that makes her extremely valuable for any Yonko that is trying to get to Raftel and become Pirate King and get the One Piece. Now, with that in mind, we also have to remember that there are some scenes in this arc where we see that, from Pudding's facial expressions, she's not very comfortable working under Big Mom. They have some differences. There's one point where Pudding even says, Big Mom, she was beginning to annoy me, stuff like that. There is a moment where we see Pudding walk out on her balcony and think about Lola and how she said that she was going to leave. So bottom line is, Pudding I don't think she's okay with the way things are right now. So it would make perfect sense that she would look for an exit, and I think Capone offered her that. That's why they're in alliance. So there's already 4 parties involved, right? You got Big Mom, you got Germa 66, you got Luffy and the Straw Hats, and then whoever is responsible for shooting Bobbin. Now, I'm not really sure what Bobbin was trying to do that got him shot. I thought he was just going to try and beat up Sanji, trying to get him back. Then again, Bobbin, in the last chapter, he did put those guards to sleep. So maybe he's part of the conspiracy too, and maybe things just didn't work out, and he was shot because he said something, or he was trying to do something different from the plan. Whatever it is, he'll be back for sure, just like Peckham's will be back for sure. So we go over to the Vinsmokes, and there's a lot of locker room talk in this chapter. They're talking about Nami, and that room is filled with homies. And so, to me, it seems if they really do believe that Big Mom is not going to betray them, at this point that seems kind of naive. I just thought Judge would be a little bit more intelligent, but it appears like they have no no idea that, like, come tomorrow, like, there's gonna be blood splattered all over the fucking place. And that being said, there is a scene where we see Judge asleep without his helmet, you know, because he usually wears one to cover his the upper half of his head, and it's obvious that it's been shaded intentionally, probably to hide his eyebrows, because they probably twirl in the same direction as Sanji's, and he doesn't want to be associated with weakness, so that's why he wears a helmet. And speaking of weakness, we go into, I guess, like the final section or the final scene of this chapter, and first of all, like the food that Sanji gives to Luffy is all soaking wet, which is, I think that's the same way that he gave that platter of food to his mom. It was also like it was shitty food at that time, but it was also soaked. And Luffy just eats it up. It kind of reminds me of Zoro when he was introduced and he was tied up, and that girl gave him that rice ball, and it fell on the floor and it was all fucking dirty, and he still ate it because it was so fucking hungry. So yeah, Luffy says, "Oh, this is delicious." Sanji's like, "You're a liar, and let me tell you 3 reasons why I can't go back with you." And the reasons don't really matter. Well, they do in the way that, you know, Sanji tries to rationalize them, but like Luffy can see right through that shit and he punches. That was great. He just crashes directly into King Bomb, who's already dead anyway because Amande cut him in half. And Luffy tells him, "Tell me how you really feel, Sanji." And Sanji says, "I want to live. Take me out to sea with you." No, he doesn't say that, but he kind of says the same thing. He says he wants to go back to the Sunny. And Luffy's like, "Okay, cool." And Luffy still has that missing tooth. And I thought it was a good moment, but it really didn't affect me emotionally. Because for one, I knew that was going to happen. Second of all, it is very similar to the Enies Lobby moment with Robin. Even though the details and the situation are different, the resolution is kind of the same. It's basically Luffy asking a crewmate, "I can help you, but I need you to make the decision and let me know what you want to do so that I can get behind you. If you don't make that choice, then I can't do it. All right? If you keep like lying and you know rationalizing yourself, then I won't be able to do anything. Tell me what you want right now." And both of them do the exact same thing, and now Luffy's ready to go. Okay? They're going to crash the wedding. So to me, the moment, again, it was good, but it wasn't as good as, in my opinion, the point where he admits to Luffy, despite the fact that these people, I don't even consider them my family, I still do not want them to die this way. I want to save them. Despite the fact that they were total assholes, because to me that takes balls. And I know a lot of people would have wanted this issue to be resolved through fighting, like Sanji fighting Judge or fighting his brothers. But I actually like this more because it just speaks to a more three-dimensional character arc for Sanji. In the fact that he basically says, you know, despite the abuse, you know, that doesn't control me. That doesn't really dictate my choices. This is my choice. I choose to stay and do this. Nobody else is forcing me. I have every reason not to stay, but despite that, because I am who I am, I will stay and try and save these bastards. And Luffy agrees, and he's like, "Yeah, well, that's basically you." And that's a point that was made in the flashback, and Reiju even says, "It's because you're kind, Sanji. You're a kind guy." But I also think the choice has a lot to do with the fact that he learned that his brothers, when they were born, they were basically made without any type of empathy. Like it's impossible for them to put themselves in other people's shoes. So when they're hitting people, when they're like using people, when they're like beating them up, they don't feel it's never like in their heads, "Oh wow, I don't think I would like that very much if that was being done to me," because they can't. They literally can't. So I like that resolution a lot. And, you know, people want to make speculations about, like, well, who's going to be the next Nakama? And what's the criteria for Luffy to ask you to join the crew and become the next Straw Hat? And at the core, if you look at the core, what really matters to Luffy, and this has been proven over and over again, is that you're a good person. That's basically the number one criteria for becoming a Straw Hat. And there's also another reference in this decision to the Sanji flashback, because when Sanji was a little boy and he was about to escape the kingdom, like his dad told him, you know, despite the fact that I don't even consider you a son, I cannot bring myself to kill you. So just you know, run away and never return, but I cannot kill you because of my own weakness. So in a twisted way, it's kind of like Sanji, like kind of like returning the favor in a very fucked up way. If you think about it like that, at least. And so that being said, to me, it's obvious now that, you know, like the Vinsmokes are going to have to go up against Big Mom to some extent. I definitely see, like, if you look at the powers, so I definitely see Ichiji fighting Prometheus, the sun, because, you know, Ichiji's, like, his power is based on explosions. You know, Niji is electricity, so he's probably going to take on Zeus. and Yonji could probably take on the hat. And so if Big Mom is busy dealing with them, plus the people that are trying to overthrow her, that can kind of create an opening for the Straw Hats to escape. So I definitely don't see Big Mom following this arc, just because from a story standpoint, there's way too much background information that we don't know about her, like the whole thing with the giants, like, you know, maybe more of her relationship with Roger in the past, more of her history. So definitely not going down this arc. And plus, this arc is really coming to an end. So there's just not enough time. I don't think it's going to happen. That being said, thank you so much for watching. I thought the chapter was pretty good. Like it, like the review if you did. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Comment down below with your thoughts. Thank you guys. Bye.